Taxes, for most Americans, the word alone is enough to spark anxiety, confusion, or even a little resentment. Every April, millions scramble to file returns, hunt for deductions, and hope for a refund. But behind the paperwork and the politics lies a story most people never hear, a secret history of the IRS and the evolution of taxes in America. It's a story of war, power, and the constant tug-of-war between citizens and the state. And it's a story that still shapes your paycheck, your business, and your future. Let's start at the beginning. When the United States was founded, there was no IRS and no federal income tax. The government got its money from tariffs, excise taxes, and land sales. For most Americans, taxes were something that happened at the local level: property taxes, sales taxes, and the occasional whiskey tax. In fact, the idea of a federal income tax was so controversial that it took a war to make it happen. That war was the Civil War. In 1862, facing a massive budget shortfall, President Abraham Lincoln and Congress created the first federal income tax and the office that would become the Internal Revenue Service. The tax was temporary, meant to fund the Union war effort. But the precedent was set. In times of crisis, the government would turn to income taxes to raise money. After the war, the income tax was repealed, but the idea never really went away. In 1913, after decades of debate, the 16th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, giving Congress the power to tax income permanently. The modern IRS was born and the American tax system began to take shape. Contrast this with the tax systems of other countries. In Europe, income taxes were often used to fund monarchies and empires. In America, taxes were always a balancing act, enough to fund the government but not so much as to spark rebellion. The Boston Tea Party wasn't just about tea, it was about the principle of taxation without representation. As America grew, so did the tax code. World War I and World War II brought higher rates and new taxes on corporations, estates, and even luxury goods. The IRS became one of the most powerful and feared agencies in Washington. By the 1950s, the top income tax rate was over 90% for the wealthiest Americans, but as the economy changed, so did the politics of taxes. The Reagan era slashed rates, simplified the code, and sparked a national debate about fairness, growth, and the role of government. But the real secret of the IRS isn't just in the numbers, it's in the way taxes shape behavior. Every deduction, credit, and loophole is a signal from the government. Buy a home, save for retirement, invest in your business, go to college. The tax code is a roadmap of national priorities written in dollars and cents. It rewards some choices and punishes others, often in ways that are invisible until you file your return. The IRS itself is a paradox. It's both the enforcer and the helper, the watchdog and the guide. It audits billionaires and helps single parents claim the earned income tax credit. It's blamed for everything from budget deficits to lost refunds, but it's also one of the most efficient tax collectors in the world. For every dollar spent on the IRS, the government collects more than $200 in revenue. But the system is far from perfect. The tax code is now over 70,000 pages long, filled with complexity and contradictions. Every year, Americans spend billions of hours and dollars just trying to comply. The rise of tax software and online filing has made things easier, but the fear of an audit still looms large. And for those who can afford the best accountants and lawyers, the system offers endless ways to minimize taxes, legally or otherwise. Contrast this with the original vision of the founders, a simple, transparent system that everyone could understand. Today, the debate over taxes is as fierce as ever. Some call for a flat tax, others for higher rates on the rich. Some want to abolish the IRS entirely, while others argue for more enforcement to close the tax gap, the difference between what's owed and what's collected. So what does all this mean for you? First, understand that taxes are more than just a bill, they're a reflection of national values and priorities. The credits and deductions you claim are the result of decades of political battles and economic experiments. Second, take control of your own tax story. Learn the basics, keep good records, and don't leave money on the table. If you're self-employed or own a business, get professional advice. The tax code is complicated, but knowledge is power. Finally, remember that the IRS is just one part of a much bigger system. The choices you make, where you work, how you save, what you invest in, are all shaped by the incentives and penalties built into the tax code. By understanding the secret history of the IRS, you can make smarter decisions, keep more of what you earn, and play the game on your own terms. But the story of the IRS is also a story of power and politics. Over the years, the agency has been at the center of some of America's biggest controversies. In the 1920s, IRS agents helped bring down Al Capone when no one else could. In the 1970s, the agency was caught up in the Watergate scandal, accused of being used as a political weapon. More recently, debates over IRS funding, audits of the wealthy, and the targeting of political groups have kept the agency in the headlines. The IRS is also a story of technology. In the early days, tax returns were processed by hand, with armies of clerks and mountains of paper. Today, the IRS handles more than 150 million individual tax returns every year, most of them filed electronically. The agency uses advanced data analytics to spot fraud, track down tax cheats, and even predict which returns are most likely to be audited. But technology is a double-edged sword. Cyber attacks, identity theft, and outdated computer systems have created new challenges for both taxpayers and the agency itself. Another hidden chapter in the IRS story is the rise of tax avoidance and offshore accounts. As the world has become more globalized, wealthy individuals and corporations have found new ways to shift profits, hide assets, and minimize their tax bills. The IRS has responded with new rules, international agreements, and high-profile crackdowns. But the cat-and-mouse game continues, and the debate over what's fair is as heated as ever. The IRS also plays a role in social policy. Tax credits for children, education, and healthcare have become a key part of the safety net. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the IRS was responsible for delivering stimulus payments to millions of Americans, an unprecedented logistical challenge. The agency's reach now extends far beyond April 15th, touching nearly every aspect of American life. Yet for all its power, the IRS is often underfunded and understaffed. Budget cuts have led to longer wait times, fewer audits, and more errors. Critics argue that the agency is both too aggressive and not aggressive enough, too quick to audit the poor, too slow to catch the rich. The result is a system that can feel arbitrary, confusing, and sometimes unfair. So where does the IRS go from here? The future of taxes in America is uncertain. Proposals for a simpler, fairer system are always on the table, but real reform is hard to achieve. The tax code reflects the complexity of the country itself, a patchwork of compromises, interests, and ideals. The IRS will continue to evolve, adapting to new technologies, new challenges, and new demands from the public. For individuals, the lesson is clear: don't ignore your taxes. The more you know, the better you can navigate the system. Take advantage of credits and deductions, plan ahead, and don't be afraid to ask for help. The IRS may be powerful, but it's not infallible. Mistakes happen, and the appeals process exists for a reason. The secret history of the IRS is a reminder that taxes are more than just numbers on a form. They're a reflection of who we are as a nation, what we value, what we reward, and what we're willing to fight for. The next time you file your return, remember that you're part of a story that stretches back centuries, shaped by war, innovation, and the never-ending quest for fairness. But the IRS's influence goes even deeper. It shapes the way Americans think about work, savings, and risk. The tax code encourages homeownership through the mortgage interest deduction, supports retirement savings with IRAs and 401(k)s, and incentivizes entrepreneurship with business deductions. At the same time, it discourages certain behaviors with taxes on cigarettes, alcohol, and even sugary drinks in some states. The IRS is not just a collector, it's a silent architect of American life. The agency's reach extends into the global economy as well. The Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, FATCA, passed in 2010, requires foreign banks to report accounts held by U.S. citizens. This has made it harder for Americans to hide money overseas, but it's also created headaches for expatriates and dual citizens. The IRS now has a global footprint, working with tax authorities around the world to track down evasion and enforce compliance. The IRS's role in politics is another chapter in its secret history. Over the years, the agency has been accused of targeting political enemies, leaking confidential information, and being used as a tool of power. These controversies have eroded trust and fueled calls for reform. Yet the IRS remains a vital part of the government, responsible for funding everything from national defense to social programs. The complexity of the tax code is both a symptom and a cause of America's political divisions. Every deduction, credit, and loophole has a constituency, an industry, a region, or a group of voters who benefit. Attempts to simplify the code often run into fierce opposition. The result is a system that is both incredibly sophisticated and deeply frustrating. For businesses, the IRS is both a partner and a challenge. Small business owners must navigate a maze of rules, forms, and deadlines. Large corporations employ armies of accountants and lawyers to minimize their tax bills. The line between tax avoidance and tax evasion is often blurry, and the stakes are high. The IRS has the power to audit, penalize, and even prosecute, but it also offers guidance, support, and relief for those who play by the rules. The IRS's story is also one of adaptation. As the economy has shifted from manufacturing to services, from local to global, and from cash to digital, the agency has had to keep up. The rise of the gig economy, cryptocurrencies, and online commerce has created new challenges for tax enforcement. The IRS now tracks digital payments, monitors crypto transactions, and works with platforms like Uber and Airbnb to ensure compliance. Yet for all its reach, the IRS is ultimately a reflection of the society it serves. Its rules, priorities, and practices are shaped by Congress, the courts, and the public. The agency's future will depend on how America chooses to balance fairness, efficiency, and the need for revenue. In the end, the secret history of the IRS is a story of evolution, adaptation, and the ongoing struggle to balance the needs of the many with the rights of the individual. It's a story that touches every American, whether they realize it or not. By understanding this history, you can make better choices, avoid costly mistakes, and take control of your own financial destiny.